Hi guys, welcome back to Filmy Addict. Today, I am going to explain a horror and mystery movie called The Lighthouse. The year is 1890. A small island off the Atlantic coast of New England. A new two-watcher's boat landed at the lighthouse. Thomas Wake, a master with years of experience, and Ephraim Winslow, a newcomer to the work, walked up to the lighthouse with its spacious rooms and floors. Winslow looked around and tried to open the wooden cupboard in front of him but could not. Then he heard the sound of water falling from above. Winslow walked up the steps. It was their dormitory. Master Wake shuffled forward with his feeble legs. That's when Winslow felt something on the bed. He put his hand through the hole in the bed. It was a small statue of a mermaid. Winslow pocketed it, and so the work began. He began to pour coals into the burning furnace. At night, both of them sat together to eat. Wake took a cup of liquor and held it out to cheers, but Winslow wouldn't drink. No matter how much Wake told him, he did not agree. Finally, Winslow relented when told to obey orders from his superiors. He took the cup and went straight to the pipe. Wake looked at him with a smile. Winslow came in with a cup full of water, but after saying cheers and putting it in his mouth, he spit it out. Wake laughed out loud. He was also instructed to clean the water tank tomorrow itself. Winslow selected the morning shift, and Wake chose the night shift for duty. When Winslow said he would take care of the lighthouse, Wake forbade him. He insisted that it was his sole duty. Time passed. Wake arrived at the lighthouse. He took off all his clothes and stood, staring at the light of the lighthouse. Winslow was also staring at the lighthouse. Then, he lit a cigarette and went for a walk. When he went a little further, he saw something floating in the sea. Winslow looked carefully, and it was a group of timbers. He slowly walked forward, taking the timbers apart one by one. Something was lying in the middle. Winslow walked up to it, and it was a human body. Suddenly, the water rose, and Winslow fell into the sea. But he started hearing a special type of voice, and it was a mermaid. Suddenly, water started falling on his face. It was dawn. It was all a dream. The morning shift was for Winslow. He went straight to the storeroom and started walking, carrying a huge sack. So, the water tank was opened. He pushed the bleaching powder and the sack into the tank. After mixing well, he moved on to the next task. The old tiles of the building had been replaced. Next was coal loading. He carried that and went straight to the warehouse. Then he saw a seagull at the door, a sea bird with only one eye. No matter what he did, it didn't go away. He immediately threw away the coals. It chirped and flew away. But Wake was watching all this from the top of the lighthouse. He walked towards the lighthouse. He took kerosene to pour in the lamp and started climbing up that big steel cylinder. He somehow caught it and brought it up, but he was very curious to know what was above. Wake came there just as he was about to climb the steps. He threw the small bowl in his hand to him. He said, "Next time, just bring it to this," and went upstairs. Winslow stared at him. At night, they sat down to eat as usual. Wake was telling stories of his past. There was only one solution to this lonely life in the lighthouse: alcohol, he said with a laugh. Winslow also gave a small laugh. But what he needed to know was about the previous keeper. He died. He was a good boy, but he was misled by saying that there are mermaids and water gods. He used to say that above that lighthouse is the light of God. Wake stopped, but Winslow only laughed. Wake remembered something and told him not to do anything to the seagull because harming a seabird is bad luck. But Winslow dismissed it with contempt. Wake couldn't stand his anger. Wake took the teacup and hit him in the face. Winslow didn't expect that at all, but being superior, he did nothing. It's night. When he was reading the book, a seagull came there. It scratched the window and started making noises. He looked up and found the place empty. When he couldn't sleep, Winslow slowly went out. He looked up and saw Wake standing naked at the lighthouse. Totally a mystery. The next morning, he moved forward with a trolley full of coal. But the workload was too much. Wake asked him to start, and clean the floor. He tried to resist, but to no avail. Winslow relented when told that the salary would be cut. And so the work went on. The next day, it began to rain heavily, and Winslow began work carrying coal along the muddy road. However, as he proceeded, his hand slipped and the whole coal fell down. He went completely crazy in the pouring rain. And so, the night passed. The next day, with Wake's help, Winslow began painting the tower while hanging from the rope. But he didn't like Wake's sudden loosening of the rope. Not only that, it was an old rope. Before he could finish, the rope broke, and Winslow fell down. Some time passed. It was the one-eyed seagull that woke him up. It's night. Wake would note down each day's reports in his logbook. Everything was kept in that wooden cupboard. Winslow was watching it all from afar. Then they had supper, but 2 weeks after joining the lighthouse, they still didn't know their names. So they got to know each other. Winslow previously worked for a lumber company in Canada. Wake had a family of his own, but his wife and children all left him. Wake asked the reason to join the lighthouse. Money was the main reason. He came here when he heard that he could get a salary of up to $1,000 a year. Winslow's plan was to earn some money, get a house of his own, and settle down. Wake had listened carefully to all that. Winslow asked him what happened to Seagull. They are reincarnations of dead sailors, children of the sea. Killing them is a great sin. Wake told him. It was dawn, and Winslow went to work as usual. When night came, Wake started his duty. But no matter how he lay down, Winslow couldn't sleep. When he thought he could smoke one, he couldn't find the cigarette pack. He went straight to the lighthouse. The cigarettes were there. That's when he heard a voice from above. Winslow went upstairs. Wake was inside. He was having intercourse with some aquatic creature. Winslow was shocked to see it. He didn't expect that at all. He couldn't believe his eyes. The next day, when he took some water to drink, the whole water was stained with blood. Feeling something was wrong, he walked towards the water tank. A seagull was lying dead inside. Just behind that, a one-eyed seagull came there. Immediately, the seagull jumped on him. Winslow caught the seagull when he couldn't stand its noise and harassment. He grabbed its head and beat it on the cement floor. Blood splattered everywhere. That seagull was killed. Just then, the wind stopped. The wind meter, which was swinging to and fro, stopped at one place. Wake came running right behind with the news. A strong sea breeze is coming. But Winslow didn't take it seriously. He told him that now is the calm before the storm. So, they covered all the windows with wooden boards to resist the waves. They cast their nets into the sea for dinner. Winslow pulled it out, and the box was full of crabs. It's night. Wake told him that the boat would come with food the next day. Winslow was slowly losing his temper with him. Winslow, who had not drunk alcohol until then, started drinking there. Wake is also a good person for drinking. Then they began to laugh heartily, singing and joking. The next day, Winslow got up when the kick of the night went off. He started carrying the coal in the rain without even putting a cover on it. He put the first load in the burner. As he came up with the second load, he saw something. Something was lying on the beach. He immediately ran there. It was a girl. He removed the plants from her face and body. But when he came down, he was shocked. Suddenly, the girl stood up and screamed loudly in a special voice. Winslow ran for his life. It was a mermaid. Winslow quickly ran into the lighthouse. Wake was sitting there. He asked Winslow to get ready immediately as the boat would come soon. So they started waiting on the beach in the pouring rain, waiting for the boat. Time passed. No one came. It was night. They were very disturbed that the officers did not come. But things got worse, strong winds and thunderstorms. The waves hit the shore at high speed. Things got worse and worse. The rescue boat has not arrived. The food is over. Winslow said we could take the small boat, but the boat was unable to go back and forth through the strong waves. Wake told him that the rest of the rations could be used together for necessity. Winslow was completely giddy when he heard it all. There is a way. Wake walked forward with him. They reached the base of the lighthouse in the pouring rain. As per Wake's instructions, both of them started digging. After a while, they found it, a wooden box. Winslow opened the box with great anticipation, shaking off all the dirt. He didn't expect it at all. The entire box was full of good quality liquor. So, they prepared liquor and the rest of the food for dinner. But in the meantime, Winslow took a kitchen knife and hid it in his hand. Later, both of them got drunk. Slowly, truths began to come out of Winslow's mouth. "I told the Canadian fool, Winslow, but he didn't listen." Wake realized that he had previously worked under a foreman named Winslow. Then he began to tell him of Wake's guilt and shortcomings. Wake also yelled back at everything he said. Then, Winslow went to the lighthouse. His desire to know what was above was increasing day by day. The next day, Winslow went up the steps without a sound and tried to open the lock with the knife. But the knife broke. Left with no choice, he went straight to the wooden cupboard. He easily opened the cupboard with the knife, but the cupboard was empty. Winslow immediately approached Wake. The keys were sitting right next to him. Winslow slowly took the knife into his hand. His intention was to kill Wake, but suddenly Wake opened his eyes. Suddenly, Winslow hid the knife behind his back. Wake said to go and look after the work. Winslow said nothing. He walked forward with his load in the pouring rain. He started drinking while on duty. Gradually, his mood changed. A lighthouse, a mermaid, and a young man drowning. So the whole thing went crazy. Winslow tossed the statue in his hand away. He grabbed the knife and started stabbing it. Later in the night, they treated food as just drinking. Then, they started playing with dance and song. Then, both of them prepared to wrestle. After beating all the things there, both of them came to peace. Winslow began to tell all his truths. His real name was Thomas. He worked under a foreman named Ephraim Winslow. He drowned right in front of his eyes. Thomas could have saved him, but he didn't. Later, Thomas came here using his identity. But Wake was nowhere to be found when he turned around, saying not to tell anyone. Thomas did not stop to look. He immediately ran to the lighthouse. But what he saw was a young man lying down. Thomas tried to wake him up, but he was shocked. It was Thomas himself. Just behind him, a hand fell on his shoulder. Wake stands right behind, like a Greek god who has come to punish him for his crimes, and he didn't stop there. Thomas ran for his life. He immediately got into the garage and took the lifeboat, and prepared to escape as soon as possible. But Wake rushed in with a huge axe. As he watched, he began to cut the boat. Thomas ran as fast as he could to the garage. Wake rushed in, screaming right behind. Thomas entered the room and closed the door, but Wake kicked it open and crashed into the table. Thomas started yelling something crazy. "I know you are the one who killed the first keeper. But this will not happen with me. This black magic you made to drive me crazy, I broke it." He threw the mermaid statue away. "I am well aware of all the things you are doing inside the lighthouse. I figured it all out." Thomas shouted loudly. Wake didn't listen to that. "What are you saying? You are the one who broke the boat. And now you came back to kill me. What's wrong with you?" Wake asked him. Thomas was totally taken aback when he heard that. Wake sat in the chair. "Your mood is very bad. Sometimes or even this lighthouse, may be your imagination. You're actually in the Canadian woods right now. Try to remember everything," Wake said. Thomas felt dizzy, and he slowly walked into a corner. When things calmed down, they decided to drink, but the liquor was out of stock. Thomas made a mixture of turpentine and honey from the garage. Wake tasted it. Super stuff. Both of them got drunk and started shouting loudly. But the storm had reached its peak. Huge waves crashed into the lighthouse. They were drinking under the table when the waves rushed over them. The whole garage was filled with waves. It was dawn. Thomas went beyond to get a drink of water and found the logbook there. He read every page of it, then suddenly started flipping the pages in anger. Having decided something, Thomas walked forward. He put the log book in his hand on the table. He tore up all the reports about Thomas as lazy, arrogant, and drunk to Wake, and finally, the final report. Not even a single penny should be paid, and instead, punishment should be given. When that happened, Thomas got mad, and the two had a fight. Thomas grabbed him by the neck and threw him away. But what he saw was Ephraim Winslow. Thomas jumped on him but got a good punch on his nose. Then he saw the mermaid, Wake, who immediately became a sea god. Thomas did not look at anything. He started hitting him with all his might, but when he was about to die, Thomas let him go. But his anger towards him had not left him. He grabbed him by the neck like a dog and started leading him in front of the garage. He went straight to the lighthouse. He dropped Wake into the same pit where he had taken the liquor bottle. He immediately began to cover the pit. Unable to do anything, Wake cursed him, the same curse given to Prometheus by the Greek god Zeus. "Let the vultures carve his whole body and die." Suddenly, Thomas digs in and takes Wake out. It was not for anything else. He needed the key to the lighthouse. He immediately took the key and entered the room. But Wake rushes in with an axe and makes a single cut. The axe landed on his shoulder. Thomas immediately took the nearby pot and gave him a slap. Soon, he took the axe and cut him down. Wake died. Then, he somehow reached the top of the lighthouse with his helpless hand. He worked hard and opened the lock on top of the lighthouse. He climbed up eagerly. He looked carefully at the spinning beam. Immediately, its window opened. Thomas looked closely at it and its intensity. He reached out, but he couldn't handle its energy. Thomas screams loudly. Immediately, his foot slipped and he fell down. He rolled down the steps of the lighthouse. It happened just as Wake said. Just like his curse, the seabirds began to carve him. Severe mental disorder and hallucination led him to death.